Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is Marcus Rosa, aka Mazuma TV, back at y'all with some more boxing talk, man. I hope everybody's having a blessed, beautiful, positive, productive Sunday. I hope you had a great weekend overall, man. I figured I'd just tap in with y'all real quick. On the road to 4K, we well into the 3K mark, about to hit that 3,100 mark in due time. Shout out to the nation and the mob for making this possible. All right, y'all, this is gonna be my post-fight reaction to Xander Zayas versus Jorge Garcia Perez, man. I wanted to give at least a few hours before I sit back and just marinate on exactly what I think about Xander Zayas and what his future is in the 154-pound division. You see what I'm saying? Congratulations to Xander Zayas for coming out victorious. He looked absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion. This was definitely the best performance that I've seen from Xander Zayas to date. You see what I'm saying? When we look over all his performances, has he had knockouts? Yes. Has he dominated opposition? Yes. But this was a performance, in my opinion, where he showed all of his tools and what he was capable of doing at an elite level. You see what I'm saying? Do we rate Jorge Garcia Perez amongst the best at 154 pounds? No, but I do think it's safe to say at this point in time that Jorge Garcia Perez is a dangerous opponent. You know what I mean? He just came off of a big win against one of the boogeymen at the time at 154 pounds, Charles Conwell, who I think is still a very dangerous person in the 154-pound division. Xander Zayas displayed a little bit of everything last night. He showcased a good jab. You know what I mean? Was boxing at long range. Had Jorge Garcia confused, in all honesty. He didn't know how to really close the gap because there was jabs in his face. The combination puncher was brilliant on Xander Zayas' part. His creativity offensively was something that, I noticed as well, because there were times where he'll shoot a 1-2. You know what I mean? He'll shoot a double jab. He'll mix some feints in. He'll lead with the left hook, follow through with the right hand. What really impressed me as well that I didn't know too much about Xander Zayas was he has some good feet too, man. He hasn't really had to use his feet up to this point in time. Like I said, he's like a fundamentally sound volume puncher. You know what I mean? An aggressive one at that. So, I never really got to see him use his legs. He put his legs on full display. Great ring generalship, man. He was controlling the tempo of the fight. He had great positioning, whether he was on the offense or the defense, setting traps really well. Was very, very relaxed defensively as well. He was sitting in the pocket and was making Jorge Garcia miss. And if he did land, there was nothing too significant or anything too dangerous to, have Xander Zayas questioning things. Showed great legs, which was another form of defense that he used. And he was catching shots pretty solid as well too. So he showed you multiple ways, multiple tools in his defensive arsenal. You see what I'm saying? It was just great. It was just great overall boxing. Great overall boxing. I thought he had Jorge Garcia hurt several times throughout the fight, but then his intelligence kicked in and understood that even though he had Jorge Garcia hurt, he wasn't going to resort to fighting his fight. You know what I mean? Stepping on the gas and giving Jorge Garcia a chance to land a big shot that could change the dynamic of the fight. So very, very great boxing on Xander Zayas' part. Very disciplined, very focused. Came in phenomenal shape as well. I think that Xander Zayas needs to give his strength and conditioning coach a solid raise, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, or at least a bonus, because Xander Zayas was firing on all cylinders for 12 rounds. I did feel like that he was showing signs of fatigue at times, but his energy was consistent the whole time. He was still sharp throughout the course of 12 rounds. I didn't see him throw anything sloppy or give me the indication that he was fatigued or didn't have anything left in the gas tank. He performed very well, so I was very pleased with his performance. Now, I've seen some criticisms with Xander Zayas, not necessarily on his performance, but him being a champion in the 154-pound division. Is he a threat to the 154-pound division? And where does he rank amongst the champions? Because when we look at the champions as of right now, man, you got Bud that got the WBA still. We got Sebastian Fundora, who holds the WBC, for what I understand. And you got Bakr Murtazaliev, who holds the IBF. And now Xander Zayas is the new WBO champion in the division. So we got 3 different champions outside of Xander Zayas. How does he rank amongst these guys? Now, for people that's going around saying that Xander Zayas is the weakest link at 154 pounds, I can't really argue with that, because the way that the 154-pound division is stacked right now, Xander Zayas may very well be the weakest link. Not because he's trash or, he's very he's limited skill-wise. No, I thought, after seeing that performance, Xander Zayas definitely has skills. His skills is up to par. You know what I mean? And I think on any given night, as long as he's performing at it, being himself, I think he could give a lot of dudes trouble. But considering the fact that he is inexperienced, he is very green. Let's not sit here and act like, he beat like a lot of top contenders, or he got a resume where he really had to walk through fire to get a world title. Not necessarily. I know he got a former world champion on his resume and Patrick Teixeira. He had an undefeated contender in Slava Spalmer, who's now in the middleweight division from what I understand. Look, he's faced some decent guys. But with him being inexperienced at a championship level and him being very young, being the youngest current world champion in the sport of boxing as of right now, he just replaced Brian Norman as the youngest champion in boxing right now amongst men from what I understand. He may very well be the weakest link, but it's not no disrespect to Xander Zayas or anything like that, man. Experience he will definitely gather through time, and he'll, as the years go on, he'll become older, more mature, more experienced fighter. You see what I mean? But at this current point in time, Xander Zayas may very well be the weakest link at 154, but you know what I mean? 54 is stacked right now. This is one of the most action-packed, deepest divisions in the sport of boxing, from 105 to heavyweight. So we can't really shame Xander Zayas for being the weakest link in an action-packed division that has nothing but animals. Especially, Jaron Ennis moving up in the division. We talking about Virgil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov, Bohachuk still around. Come on, man. Bakram Murtazaliev. A lot of people are avoiding this guy. You know what I mean? How does he match up with Xander Zayas? I think that's a very dangerous fight for Xander Zayas, considering the size, the strength, and the punching power that, Murtazaliev has. Xander Zayas damn near going to have to box a perfect fight in order to, defeat somebody like Bakram Murtazaliev. How does he match against Terrence Crawford? I don't even want to get into that discussion because Terrence Crawford is levels above 95% of boxers right now. You see what I mean? This dude been champion for well over a decade, been at the top of the pound-for-pound list for years, and he's about to go up against Canelo Alvarez. And if he beats Canelo Alvarez, which he may very well do, in all honesty, he might not even come back to the 154-pound division, point-blank, period. You see what I mean? Virgil Ortiz, that's a dangerous fight for Xander. Let's just keep it 1,000. He has a higher work rate just like Xander. He doesn't mind punching with his opponents, and he has one-punch knockout power. That's something that we do know. You feel what I mean? So these are all dangerous fights for Xander Zayas. And Sebastian Fundora, we can't forget about him. He just made Tim Tszyu quit on his stool. Tall, rangy dude who got some respectable pop, and he gets hit, but he don't mind getting into a firefight. He got great conditioning as well. All these dudes are monsters that Xander Zayas is surrounded by. How does he do at this point in time? I'm not too sure. One thing I do know is I'm not confident that he beats all of these guys. There may be some guys that he may be able to get off on or have some success against. Then there's guys that might ultimately outclass him and get him up out of here. You feel what I mean? So, long story short, Xander Zayas has had a great performance last night. My favorite performance from him, in all honesty. Completely neutralized the power puncher. Really made Jorge Garcia fight his fight. He controlled the pace of the fight the entire time. He utilized his footwork to keep his distance. Used great counter punching ability. He slipped punches. He caught punches. Walked his opponent in the shot, showcased a great jab, did a little bit of everything tonight, to be honest with you. Did a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna tip my head off to Xander Zayas on that tip, but how does he rank amongst the champions in the division right now? He may be at the very bottom of the list, man. You see what I mean? But that's no shade to Xander Zayas because he happens to be in one of the most stacked divisions in boxing today. You see what I mean? So let me know what y'all think about this, man. What do you think of Xander Zayas' performance against Jorge Garcia? Where does he rank amongst the 154-pound champions or just the division in general? Y'all let me know in the comments below. This is Marcus Rosa, a.k.a. Mazuma TV, signing off with my son Michael, who is knocked the fuck out. God damn, that's some good sleep. Anyways, man, I'll holler at y'all 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the live. Y'all have a blessed, beautiful one. Peace.